A mischievous girl stands before me. A stolen calibrator used as a bargaining chip for collected beetles leads to an outburst of emotions centered on the thought of losing a friend. She doesn't want me to go, to leave the village, and as such, is withholding an item I need. Sable must eventually start a new path, and with it comes the many sacrifices that must be made. Straying away from comfortability, family, friends, home, even if it's just for a little while, is a necessity for Sable's story, and it's this form of straying that ripples through Sable's life and her community. It becomes evident in her thoughts and actions. This is what Sable is all about. It's about leaving behind in order to build from what's ahead. Sable is labelled as a coming-of-age story, and I'd agree with that. Its storytelling has a knack to making exchanges like this one understandable, relatable, and that familiar tone is a common feature throughout. This particular interaction is a brick in a wall of restriction, a wall that must be broken in order for Sable to begin her journey of self-discovery and self-definition. What's clear from the very start is that this path-taking adventure of self-discovery is a unique, profound road that all members of the Ibex clan, including Sable herself, must take, and you start right at the beginning. Sable's ultimate objective is to obtain the masks of the different clans scattered across its world. Your final objective will be to pick just one of these masks at the end of the game. It represents a path for Sable to choose in life, and the Ibexi clan have sent her away to pick just one, to which she'll be tied to forever. Masks are earned by exchanging badges from completing quests and tasks assigned by clan members throughout its world. One of the first tasks given to you is to learn to glide, a feature prevalent in popular open world titles that lets you leap from high ground, floating through the sky and eventually landing safely on the ground, perfect for surveying your surroundings and marking the end of a quest or an explorative climb. But Sable makes it clear that there is an implicit link between learning to glide and spreading your wings, so to speak. It's positioned as a gunfire to the start of a marathon, a tool to be used specifically for exploring its pretty vast and open world, discovering settlements, villages, and cities beyond the confines of the sandstone pillars you call home. However, gliding through the air, while satisfying and useful, is also mirrored by an accomplice on the ground. Simoon, your hoverbike, has to be earned through quests, built by hand, and bonded with like a pet, in turn becoming a part of you, an extension of what drives you to explore, pun intended, I guess. After all this is done, your task is to leave the canyon, make some dust behind you. And that's exactly what I did. I just soared through the desert on Simoon with no direction, my trusty hoverbike, seeing what I could do, pushing it to its limits. There's something satisfying about gliding around this way, bumbling over the sand dunes, recklessly swerving and dipping with little regard for physics as I made my way to the next area, wherever that may be. Sable's quest and story progression is generally quite simple, but varied in its content. Go here, go there, fetch me this, bring me that, standard stuff for any RPG worth its salt. What's unique about Sable is its charming dialogue. It's well written, it's poignant and sharp, direct. There's a feeling that the people you meet have been through their own individual journeys, that they have solidified their beliefs, know what they want. Monologues from Sable are fantastically written, and while Sable may be unsure of what to do or where to go on the outside, her introspective thoughts display a distinctive personality that almost acknowledges the absurdity of some of the situations she finds herself in. She openly accepts the eccentric nature of the people she meets, and her character possesses highly analytical traits, a sense of humour and a subtle intuition to boot. Borderline pretentious, but without overstepping the mark. I like it. There are some interesting events to work your way through on your journey, however. Noteworthy quests on my playthrough were a crime investigation in conjunction with city guards, along with an amusing hide-and-seek game tucked away in Equia, for example. There's also a cute little worm hunting side quest that lets you increase your stamina limits. Collect the chums, as they call them, hand them in, get rewarded, that sort of thing. These errands aren't particularly difficult to overcome. They're mostly a way for you to get to grips with the inhabitants and ingratiate yourself within each settlement. Learn their ways, accept their ambitions as a clan, grow yourself as an individual from experience. Sound design is where Sable shines brightly. There are musical tracks along the way to help link the player with feelings that might be prevalent in the scene, but these are sparse and don't overload direction. What was really surprising were the echoing gurgles, clicks, and thuds prolific throughout the story. Sounds mesh between mechanical and biological sources. Opening mailboxes, birds fluttering off their perches, and simoons whirring drones as you pass through the desert all define the world's desolation. It aids your experience of fleeting moments in a way that lets you know you're a small cog in a large wheel, a grain of sand among the dunes. There's no UI to distract you unless you hold R1 to bring it up, no compass or map without an intent to view one. I suppose this is to engender a feeling of being a little lost, to encourage a forging of a path based on instincts and exploration. It works sometimes and fails other times. A little white indicator on a ring surrounding Sable doesn't always tell you exactly where to go, like cave entrances, for example, can be a little difficult to find when relying on this tool. And while Sable's world is large, it's also barren, empty, unforgiving. In some ways, it makes finding new items, places, or people rewarding, and in others, it becomes a chore to navigate. Simoon isn't always equipped to surge up big sandy hills, and neither are you when it comes to climbing rock faces. Stamina burns quickly while scaling rocky mountains, so weaving amongst its world can be a little frustrating at times, often leading to a lot of effort with no tangible reward. Elements and textures are mostly defined by colour and thick lines. An analogy would be a visual representation of, say, a recalled memory or a depiction of a feeling. You know what it is, but you don't need an ultra-high resolution picture to understand it fully. In this sense, it becomes clear that Sable's art style mimics the cel-shaded environments of Wind Waker, Breath of the Wild, Jet Set Radio, and other such games. Its muted colours and low dynamic range give a sense of an alien world, almost as if you're in a dream. This is especially true at night. During the day, Sable's visuals ignite the screen with bright contrasting colours. You can almost feel the sun beating down on the desert as it amplifies the bright cultural colours laced within each city you visit. But dark areas at night or otherwise are signified by a limited palette, almost grayscale, monotone. It's a great idea, but its execution leaves perspective and shape a little hard to make out sometimes. Animations are deliberately choppy. While the camera pans and environmental frame rate is high, smooth and fluid, character animations are paced in such a way that is reminiscent of hand-drawn animation. Perhaps this is because looking onward, on the horizon ahead, is the main focus, and snapshots of Sable and the people around her are simply just that. It's hard to say, but I like it. It fits well with the separation of reality that the world gives off. I played through Sable's main story in around 7 hours. That was enough for me. It's where I felt I experienced Sable to its fullest. While there are other areas to explore, I felt like Sable bit off a bit more than it could chew with its open world. My thoughts on this may be different to other players, but I felt the art style, direction and flow of Sable would have benefited from a tighter, linear, story-driven experience than one of freefall exploration. While the minimalist feel of Sable is unique and admirable at first, the urgency of finding something completely new and bombastic tucked away in the corners of its open world is limited within its style. For me, there wasn't a synergy between these ideas, and a conflict grew over time. During those 7 hours though, I could feel the sense of growing trepidation that mirrored Sable's thoughts, the curious wonder that came along with entering new areas for the first time and not knowing what to expect. There are no monsters to fight, so Sable produces a sense of freedom in its world that a lot of other games often miss. No threats mean no fear, and no fear means the focus is on experience alone. Emotion over survival, contemplation over combat. Its unique art direction enables this because you're not linked to a grounded reality. It's dreamlike and surreal. It's about capturing that exciting instability in growth in its purest form, what it's like to be young, right at the cusp of taking on real responsibility. Home changes, a definition and character often changes along with it. What's important through this context is that the training wheels assisting Sable in her journey mirror those foundations that align with growing up, transitioning from child to adult. These changes can be abrupt, bumpy, ridiculous, and tedious. There's chaos within change, and Sable executes this idea really well, and I mean really well. Yes, there are elements of Sable that are a little janky, rusty, unpolished, but the message of building that character definition comes through clearly with a positive and charming tone. I like it because it's difficult sometimes to align yourself with drive and passion in life, to find what makes you tick and gives you purpose. I think that's what Sable is trying to project here, and what Sable is looking for in whatever pace that may be. When you look at Sable's journey, acquiring the gliding ability, the hover bike, and the road to giving them up at the end, Sable's ultimate message as a game is sort of saying, hey, there are these familiar things in life, stability and all these safety harnesses you have to give up in order to move forward. You have to put them aside sometimes to grow up and find your direction. It's heartbreaking on the surface, maybe, yeah, but let loose, go with the wind, let the chips fall where they may. Roll the fucking dice. Those bumps and bruises are going to define you, and when they do, when you come out the other side, you'll know exactly who you are, and the journey, however turbulent, will be worth it.